So I want to make this quick video. I want to give my opinion on this question of should you become a CFI? Is it worth becoming a CFI during this time? So I've had this question a lot. Uh, if you don't know me, I'm Phil. I'm an airline pilot. I fly cargo. I fly the Boeing 767. I work for a company that contracts through government, doing government contracts. We do DHL, and we also, but our biggest contract is we fly for Amazon. Um, so the question I got, someone asked me to answer, and in response to a video that I saw, should you become a CFI if you're going through the training of becoming a pilot? So for the longest, um, becoming a CFI or a certified flight instructor was one of the typical ways that you could build time in order to be qualified to work for a regional, or more specifically, to obtain your air transport pilot license. In order to get your air transport pilot license, you have to have several hours flying as a PIC. You have to have several hours flying multi-engine, complex aircraft. And more importantly, you need to have 1,500 hours, or you need to have 1,500 hours of fixed wing time, or a combination of rotor and fixed wing time. Uh, Now, there are ways that you can mitigate this. For example, if you went to a Part 141 aviation college, you don't need the 1,500 hours. You can get a restricted ATP. If you are in the military, you can get your restricted ATP with less than 1,500 hours. But a lot of people don't have those qualifications. It's expensive. Not everybody goes in and becomes a military pilot. So one of the most common ways to build that 1,500 hours is to become a flight instructor. Um, when I first finished my commercial, I did not want to become a flight instructor. You know, I've got the gift of gab. I do like teaching. I was a former teacher myself. I taught music. Um, I just didn't really want to go back into teaching. Uh, I became a pilot because I wanted to fly. I love flying. It's one of the few things I can do every day, all day, and not get bored of it. Teaching, that's another thing. I can't teach. I get bored with teaching. I get frustrated with teaching. It's just really not my passion. Um, the reason I chose to become a flight instructor, and I did not work as a flight instructor for long. I worked as a flight instructor for just a little under a year before I went to my first flying job. Um, well, technically, my first flying job was doing tour flying, but I was a I had my flight instructor license when I became a tour pilot as part of being an instructor for the school I worked for. Um, so I finished my commercial license, and it wasn't until almost a year later I got my flight instructor license. And the only reason I really did it was where I live. I live in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, the majority of jobs that you could get and live in Los Angeles were corporate or flight instructor. Most of the corporate companies wanted you to have hundreds of hours, if not in multi, but also in jets, in order to even get through the door. Uh, so flight instructors were the only other jobs that were hiring at the time, and so I was really encouraged just to do it that way. I worked as a flight instructor, and I went from, what about 300 hours after my commercial flying with friends. What I mean is, like, when I was done with my commercial, I was at about 300 hours between flying with friends and training. And from 300 hours to 700 hours, I worked as a flight instructor. Um, I mostly did private, or for the first like month or two, I did private instruction. Uh, the school that I worked with, we had like levels. So basically, I mostly worked with new private pilot students for a bit. But of course, we didn't have like a full-time program. And because we were just a small school, I worked with a lot of new people where and a lot of those individuals never finished. You know, I would work with individuals who were basically dabbling. They would come in, they'd do a couple lessons, they'd fly for a few months. And because they were working professionals, you know, you would have a lot of times in which they would never finish, or if they were to finish, it would take years, or yeah, months to years for them to actually finish. Where I got a lot of my time was once I saw how slow the progression was for a small school with private students. I wanted to do more instrument. So after I finished my CFII, I really advertised myself on helping people quickly do cross countries and finish those instrument licenses or ratings. A lot of the students I worked with as a CFII doing instruments were actually coming from other instructors. You know, these were individuals who started their instrument and never finished, or they wanted to get those cross countries out of the way. They wanted to, you know, practice right before check ride. My school and I was a little cheaper than some schools, so I had a lot of students who came from other instructors or came from other schools who couldn't finish there for whatever reason or another, and that was how I built a lot of my instructor time. I built a lot of my instructor time doing instrument cross countries. I had a lot of instrument cross countries, and that's how I got a lot of my time. So you don't necessarily have to just be a flight instructor who just teaches private students. That's not how I advertise myself. I did a lot of work on the side just saying, looking primarily for commercial and instrument students. I didn't really like working with a lot of private students. I thought it was risky. You know, I thought that I wouldn't get the hours as fast just doing that. So with that in mind, when it comes down to it, you do not have to be a flight instructor, especially now. You know, if you are able to get a job working for 135, you know, flying, you know, something like a PC-12 or a Caravan, or, you know, doing tour, or doing what do I call that? Doing the aerial surveys or pipeline flying. You know, the important thing is you're getting that PIC time, you're getting that cross country time, and you're getting that IFR and night time. That's what you're going to need to get your ATP. You know, you no longer need to have tons of times in jets or large turboprop, multi-engine turboprops. You can get that time in a single engine turboprop with, you know, 100 hours, or what is it? It's not even 100 hours, 25 or 50 hours in a small multi-engine light twin will fulfill that requirement to get your ATP. And right now, because a lot of companies are advancing these guys so quickly and losing people, there's so much movement in aviation that these guys are taking in people who don't have that jet time or regional time into larger companies. You know, so you can easily get snatched up to a regional without having an instructor certification, without having jet time or even large turboprop multi-engine time. So you don't need to be a flight instructor. But with that said, a flight instructor, in my opinion, will make you a better pilot. Yes. There are many a times in which I have seen pilots who don't fly a lot of IFR, pilots who don't spend as much time doing abnormal procedures that are lacking, and you can tell when somebody has that instructor time and doesn't have that instructor time. So I would look at it this way. If you were interested in working as an instructor, or you were interested in having that next level of training, there is no better way to get that experience than teaching that experience. You know, you'll find your grasp on FAA rules, on weather, on instrument flying, on instructions. You'll find that information will come key in interviewing, in working, in flying. And if you keep that consistency and you keep that knowledge up, it's going to help you. It's going to make you a better pilot. And really, you'll find that the best way to keep that proficiency up is to work as an instructor. So, do you need to be an instructor? Absolutely not. Is it advantageous for you to be an instructor? For sure. For sure. You know, you will find that having that instructor experience will help you in the long run. And so I recommend it, even if you don't want to be an instructor. Training as an instructor, spending a little time with some students will make you a better pilot. You'll get to see the mistakes that individuals make, and really a lot of these situations come down to experience. And so having that experience will make you a stronger pilot. You know, that's my view on whether you should be an instructor or not. You do not need to be an instructor to get a good job. You don't need to be an instructor, and you'll find a lot of pilots who were instructors don't keep it up. You know, they fly jets, they fly for companies, and they don't renew their instructor license. They don't see themselves becoming an instructor after they retire, and so they don't care about that. So that's my 2 cents on whether you should be an instructor or not. Hopefully this helped you. If you have any questions or any comments, leave them down below. I'll try to respond to them as soon as I can. If you have some content that you'd like me to explore, feel free to hit me up. You can email me, you can send me a direct message through Facebook, or you can just leave it in the comments, and I'll try to respond to them in a timely manner. Thanks for watching my videos, and you guys keep flying, yeah?